Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Don Zavis, Tucson Paranormal Society's co-founder. Welcome to Inside Tucson Paranormal, our conference call that talks about everything metaphysical and paranormal, not only in the Tucson, but in southern Arizona and pretty much the Southwest. We have a wonderful, wonderful show for you today. This particular guest, and we have multiple guests, which we want to be thankful for, was one that I really, really, really wanted for some time. Colleen deals in the world of the metaphysical, in the world of hypnosis, and it's really interesting how hypnosis has really become such a strong component here in all things metaphysical, certainly all things paranormal, because it can help provide evidence and stuff. So, Colleen, thank you so much for joining us. We're excited to dive into hypnosis, see how we can use it as a tool to help individuals understand and maybe navigate their paranormal experiences. So to start, can you kind of share a bit about your background and the guests that you have as well? And I'll kind of sit here quietly.
Sure, Don. We're really excited to be here. It's not just me, Colleen Hitchcock. I'm a board-certified hypnotist, and I own Scottsdale Hypnosis. But also I have two other hypnotists with me today, Larson and Lee Hayes. Both of them are really strong paranormal groupies and do a lot of age regressions also with me. And so we're really excited to talk to the Tucson Paranormal Society and explain a little bit about how age regression and hypnosis can help sort of create an understanding of maybe an event or experience that they've had that they don't quite understand. So my background is I have an education degree from Minnesota State University. I've been a teacher, a stockbroker, a regional manager for a Boston management consulting company, a founder of a publishing company, writer, screenwriter in LA, and a writer for a long time before I became a hypnotist. And I'm kind of going to about my second decade now of being a board-certified hypnotist. I started out actually, Don, just volunteering in the emergency room at Banner Hospital, and found I gravitated towards the emergency room and had a knack for doing everything from taking people out of heroin withdrawal to comas. So after that, I kind of went, maybe I should do something more with it. You know, hypnosis is really commonly thought of as being really good for anxiety or stress, smoking and weight loss, that kind of thing. But more and more, it's becoming, I think, a part of a team that people go to as not just your doctor, your chiropractor or massage therapist, but also sort of a team that is about wellness and sort of balance in our lives. And so if we've had any kind of an experience that has been an event, a paranormal event that they don't quite understand, that you don't quite understand or have confusion about, it's really easy to do an age regression to go back to the event and understand it as an observer. And as I continued my work, I started realizing that hypnosis had a much deeper potential to assist people in accessing the unconscious memories and sort of unlocking powerful insights and understanding around their experiences and their paranormal events. So I find studying hypnosis with a curiosity for helping people explore the unknown within themselves. And over time, my work has expanded that focus more to the age regression because there's so much that comes out of it from the understanding. When I'm going to be speaking in April at the Tucson Paranormal Society, I'm going to share some of my personal experiences. And even back in the 80s, when this event happened to me, I used hypnosis to understand it more. I was not a hypnotist for many years after, but I went and understood what it was that I experienced through hypnosis. So I believe in it. I've used it myself, and I've seen a number of people that have come in for paranormal experiences that have really made peace with their events. A lot of times for people, it becomes a traumatic event or it's just a confusion. And so by using hypnosis and kind of having a safe place, it's non-judgmental to explore and explain what happened and kind of come to an understanding of it. It's really powerful in terms of a change in their life. So
that's amazing. No, that's wonderful. And it's interesting because so many people now, in an attempt to understand almost the non-understandable. I don't even know if that's a word, so I think I'm making it up. But in an attempt to try to understand an experience that they just can't comprehend, hypnosis has now become a go-to place, almost for like evidence, justification, something like that. So exactly, how do you see hypnosis helping people understand if they've had an encounter like an alien experience, haunting, a UFO, cryptid, ghostly visitation? How do you see hypnosis kind of weaving itself into that?
Well, I had somebody, for instance, Don, that came to me that had an experience back in the 70s where the car elevated in an Ohio cornfield, and there was a UFO, and when the car slammed back down, all four boys looked at each other and didn't really know what happened. But since that time, the client that I had, for instance, felt he had a walk-in within him, and but he wanted him gone. And when he came into hypnosis, we actually, rather than have judgment or rather than say, I don't believe you, which is what he got for a lot of years that he told people about this, I said, okay, let's assume that he's there. And then we did a session that we went to another realm, and he literally walked out and joined other aliens. And he saw him. He said he clearly saw his alien leave him. And after that, he was more relaxed. He felt better. He felt himself. It can be a number of different things. I had somebody else that came in, for instance, that was also had a number of extraterrestrial experiences and one UFO at different times in his life. And we went into each one of those sessions and came to kind of an understanding of what really happened. And the net result for him was he started to plug back more in life. He had children, he had other things, but he was isolating himself from that for some reason. And then it shifted him to just really plug back in and enjoy his life more. So I think it can be a very powerful tool for resolve, for kind of resolve and understanding and coming to, a good explanation of what happened and why.
Well,
and there's always that question, and that's why me.
Well, I think that goes back to the I was going to say that goes back to the unexplainable, and especially in a situation where someone was not looking for this. We have many people connected in the Tucson Paranormal Society that are actively out looking for things and not surprisingly find them. So I always kind of take those because I consider myself a healthy skeptic. Right? I believe vehemently, but I don't believe that everything that goes bump in the night is something paranormal. Sometimes crap just falls over. But what I find is the ones that, not really, I mean, it's not everything that bumps, not everything is paranormal. But again, when you're out looking for that, you're predisposed for it. The people that I really think are the amazing ones are the ones that, like you mentioned, those four boys, there's a good chance that they weren't looking for that encounter. It just kind of came upon them. So, when you really have something unexplainable, then there's a sense of isolation. Nobody's going to believe me, or a fear of some kind of social stigma that now goes when you say, I've seen a ghost, I've, had an abduction experience, I saw Bigfoot. People kind of look at you differently, maybe less now than they did before. So how does hypnosis help them work through those feelings, so there isn't that fear, the shame, and kind of be able to accept it a little better?
Well, I think one of the things is it's an incredible tool for exploring the subconscious, which is where we store many of our memories, particularly those that are too complex or difficult to process consciously. So many paranormal experiences, whether they involve UFO sightings, ghostly encounters, or even extraterrestrial visitations, often leave people feeling disoriented or disconnected from their own memories And these events can be so surreal that the mind doesn't always know how to integrate and how to process it. And usually the people that they turn to around them haven't had this experience either, and so they don't know where to go with it. And so when someone comes to me with a paranormal experience, they want to explore, we can use hypnosis to create a safe, controlled environment where they can re-examine those moments without fear or judgment. Or anyway, through age regression, we can guide them back to the specific moment of that encounter. And this allows the person to experience the event again, but as an observer from a calmer, more centered place. And this process not only helps uncover forgotten details, but also provides emotional clarity and a lot of times more memory that goes with it. So, for example, a person who has had a frightening UFO encounter may have suppressed details due to the shock or the trauma of the event. By regressing into that moment, they might remember feelings of calm or curiosity that were overshadowed by fear. The experience may no longer seem as menacing, and they can begin to understand it on a deeper level. Sometimes this leads to an entirely new perspective on their experience, whether that's acceptance or understanding or even a sense of empowerment that goes with it.
It would definitely be fear to me. I mean, as much as they often say, be careful what you wish for, and although I really do wish for an encounter, I can only imagine what it would be like if it was to happen. But you're right. I think a lot of the people that have had these experiences don't really have an outlet. They don't have a venue. Exactly what you said. There are people that come to our events that tell us things that they have never told anyone, family, spouse, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, kids, parents. They've never, ever told another living soul because of the fear of ridicule, or they're kind of struggling with that feeling. So you've mentioned working with people who had these experiences. Can you walk us through like what a typical session might look like? What would happen when somebody's come to you and said, I have this feeling or had this experience, I don't know how to deal with it? What would that sound like, just so our listeners can get a sense of, because normally these types of events are probably listened in on and attended by a lot of people that may have had the very types of experiences we're talking about.
Yes, and actually, when I had one of my first ones, going back to what you were talking about, who do you talk to after this? I remember going to my family, Don, and telling them about the experience I had, and they said absolutely nothing. They stared at me, and I think they were trying to figure out if they should commit me or what was going on. There was just this, on total ununderstanding of whatever happened or whatever I perceived to have happened. And there was just this feeling from me that, I wanted somebody to jump forward and say, oh, yeah, that same thing happened to me too. But nobody did. And it made me feel a little bit still out, not sure how to process it. Now, you asked two questions in there. One of them, what was the other one that you mentioned before? I wanted to mention that point. Well, that I know what it's like to actually have people look at you like they're looking at, like they're deer in headlights or something, or they just stare at you.
Well, because, again, they haven't had that experience, and now you're bringing, our tagline for the Tucson Paranormal Society is seeking to explain the unexplainable. When you come and you're a rational person, you come to another rational person and said, I've experienced something that is incredible. I can't explain it. It doesn't even make any sense to me. So one of the fears that we find is that people are uncomfortable with the process. When they talk about a regressive therapy, or they talk about time slips, all of the things that they've experienced, what they say is, well, what's going to happen? So when somebody comes to you for a session, what's going to happen? I think that they think they're going to, lay down on a couch and look at this spinning watch and, count backwards. And that may be the case. But I think that there's so much apprehension out there that a lot of people are fearful.
Yeah, we have a very calming, relaxed setting here where it's not couches, but cushy recliners. And there are 6 levels to hypnosis. Hypnosis is really something, Don, that we go in and out of all the time during the day. It's that space right between before we wake up and become fully conscious, right before we go to sleep, and it's also something we do all the time when we daydream. Sometimes when we're on the highway driving, we kind of get into a highway hypnosis, watching the line. It's kind of an eye fixation thing. And even when we're watching TV and zone out, and then all of a sudden we're buying something to look like Cindy Crawford or whatever on TV. So we kind of go in and out of hypnosis all the time during the day. And there are 6 levels to hypnosis. And the first 3, you remember everything that's said. In 4, 5, and 6, sometimes you can be on a path and remember the first thing and then the third thing and forget the second. But when you are going into an age regression, you sort of want to be on one of those deeper levels. So a lot of times before the session, what we do is we send out an audio for someone to listen to kind of prep them to get used to the voice of the hypnotist, and then also just relax and kind of practice with doing a little hypnosis before they come in, so it's not a first-time thing for them. And then they're used to the voice a little bit, and also each hypnotist has their own style of building that trust and rapport, because it's important for you to trust your hypnotist. And so they spend a little time getting to know you and then do a session that leads you back to that time. So
how would you address? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So one of the issues that we hear, and I personally disagree, but that under hypnosis you can implant experiences. You could implant. Now, I've personally been involved with, as an observer, in many. I've not had that experience where someone implanted anything. In fact, they gave them no direction whatsoever on anything. They'll just say, do you remember this date, or this time you were driving down this road, and that was it. There was no fill in the blanks at all. How do you address the issue where someone would look at hypnosis, or they would look at regressive therapy, or the time slips? And I think everybody's had the experience. You're driving home from work, and then you pull in your driveway, and you're like, "Oh my God, how did I get here?" You're hoping against hope that the streets aren't littered with dead pedestrians because you were paying attention. But how would as you as an expert kind of address that? Because we look at regressive therapy, we look at hypnosis as being somewhat evidentiary, to be able to say, look, this is, evidence that they are remembering, that they're not making up. This is a memory, not a creation. How would you address the people and say that this is kind of like an implant, even though I clearly do not agree?
Okay, so it's definitely not. And one of the things about every hypnotist is that they are a wordsmith. They're very particular about the words that they use. And when you're doing something that's important, like a paranormal regression, or you're doing even a child abuse or trauma from the past, that kind of thing, or forensic, you want to be very, very careful about the words, that you're not leading in any way. And so it's just a matter of taking them back to the event that they want to revisit. So usually they've talked with their hypnotist beforehand and said, this is an event that happened when I was 12, and the house lit up blue, and then there was an extraterrestrial that ran into my room, and they're talking about some event that happened. So it's a matter of getting them back to that point where they were 12 and remembered an event that still is imprinted on their mind, and then let them talk about it. So it's very open-ended, where you're not really specifically bringing up the extraterrestrial unless they see it again. So this is true also for childhood abuse or trauma. When you use any kind of regression for that too, you want to be very particular.
Yeah, no, I could imagine, especially when you're dealing with children. I think that amps it up to an higher level. Now, I know that on the April 18th, you're going to be doing the general meeting session for the Tucson Paranormal Society. But you had alluded in your earlier conversation that you had an experience yourself. And I don't know if you want to,
actually
give like so I don't know if you want to give like a sniglet of one without giving up everything for the April 19th meeting, but more specifically, how did hypnosis help you understand your experience?
I had an experience, I'll say this much. I kind of want to leave it to the group on when I speak in April, but I will say this. I had an event where I felt like there were beings in the room with me, and I felt like my spirit left my body and came back in, and I was vibrating, and my spirit left my body and came back in, and my spirit left my body and came back in, but I had no memories of what happened with that. And but I was confused, of course, by the beings that I saw in the room and things like that, and had no one to talk to about it. I really felt like there was nobody that I could talk to about this. And so you're trying to process this and trying to figure it out. And I did go into hypnosis, and during that regression, found out that I had actually been 3 different places during that, leaving the body and coming back in, and leaving the body and going back in. So I want to share that with the group where I was.
Oh my God, that's well, I think that, and obviously hypnosis helped you kind of get through that. So that kind of made sense for you at that point in time. So, obviously it sounds like it's going to be an incredible session. And again, as one of the co-founders of the Tucson Paranormal Society, I'm thrilled that you're willing to share your experience. I know we have Ellie and Susan that are also going to be joining us. Ellie or Susan, have you had a similar maybe kind of experience that Colleen has had?
Hi, I'm Susan Larson, and yes, I actually have. And I've had a couple experiences, and kind of the same of Colleen. I want to save some of the juicy things for when we're there speaking to the group, but I had some experiences in Illinois where I lost a good amount of time, and it was after there was a flash, bright light. My brother had heard me crying out, and that is the only thing that I had remembered before I did hypnosis. When my brother came in to check on me, he said I was just laying still on the bed. So it was very interesting because I was having this experience, and to someone around me, it appeared that I was just sleeping. So I will say that the hypnotism helped me to not feel isolated with what I was experiencing, and it helped me process my emotions so that I could feel some peace with it and acceptance. So it's been a valuable tool, and I'm feeling that with this past life regression, we can bring a lot of that comfort to anyone that feels that they need to process their own emotions and know that they are not alone. And I'm just very excited to work with the Tucson Paranormal Society.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And one of the things that we are looking for to try to create is some kind of an event where, for those that are interested, that they would be able to come and go. It won't be free, but it'll be a modest cost. But would actually be able to go into maybe and have some regressive therapy. It's interesting because uniformly, and I know we've got one other young lady who's going to be. I want to make sure we get her involved as well. But the thing that we hear constantly is, am I crazy? Right? Am I crazy? Now, I don't believe that they are at all. I believe, again, they experience something unbelievable, which just the concept of would make you think like it's not possible that you are crazy. So I know, Colleen, you have another guest. Maybe if you would mention a few things.
I do. Ellie is here, and Ellie was formerly with the group DeLuca. She's a rock star, literally, Don. And but also very interested and has her own views on things too. But I guess I would call us all paranormal groupies here. So here's Ellie. Hey, Don, how are you?
I'm well, Ellie. I got to tell you, I was a heavy metal guitar player in Detroit in the 80s.
Oh, yeah?
So spandex pants, big hair, giant amps. So think Poison. And my claim to fame is in the 80s, we used to always say that in the 80s, the guys were prettier than the girls. So let's go figure. But that's wonderful. Thank you. No, I appreciate you joining us as well. We look for lots of insight. So I'm very anxious to hear your thoughts as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't personally have any encounters, anything like that, but I guess my interest in the paranormal came with the passing of my dad in 21. And, that sort of feeling of like knowing that his energy has just changed and evolved. And so I'm very open-minded, and I love hearing other people's stories and experiences, and I love like getting into their subconscious and helping them retrieve those memories. So yeah, I'm very excited to work with the Tucson Paranormal Society too.
That's wonderful. We're looking forward to having you. And like always, we run out of time before we run out of, because I've still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I still have 9 more questions to ask, but we do try to respect the time for our listeners to keep to a half hour. One thing that's interesting, Ellie, that we find is the belief in spiritualism or the paranormal is the only thing on the face of the earth that over 90% of the population of the earth believes in. It is the only singular thing that 90% of the population believes in some kind of paranormal or spiritualism. You may not agree on religion, politics, anything, but 90% of the human beings on the face of the earth believe in some kind of spiritualism, paranormal, metaphysical. You get to choose. So, ladies, it was an absolute privilege to have you join us. I really, really do appreciate this. I am so looking forward to you joining us for our general session in April. I'm very anxious to hear more about your experiences, and I know we'll have a room full of people there as well. Any last minute thoughts you kind of want to share with our listeners here before we close up today's session?
Just letting them know that if they visit scottsdalehypnosis.com, they can see a number of things that we work on also, and invite them to come on in for any other issue that they want to work on. But also there is a special going on for anybody from the Tucson Paranormal Society. And I think you're going to have a sheet on that to offer that up to folks.
We are.
At some point.
Yes.
Yep. So.
Right. And you do a full service beyond things related to the paranormal. So you do smoking cessation, as I understand it, and weight control and all of the, a lot of the other wonderful things that hypnosis provides.
Over drinking, a lot of different issues.
Yeah. Absolutely. So first of all, everyone who's joining us, thank you so much. We realize there's a million things that are vying for your attention in today's world, and your, commitment to your paranormal education, coming to the things, for those that are listening to us on the archive broadcast. Again, we cannot tell you how much we appreciate it. If you'd like to get a hold of Colleen, you're certainly welcome to reach out to us. TucsonParanormalSociety.com. It has all the contact information. Go in, join us in our social media. You'll be updated to everything else. So Colleen and Ellie and Susan, thank you so much for being our guest today. It was wonderful. This is like a topic that is near and dear to my heart. So it was like extra exciting for me. So again, thank you so much. I can't say how much we appreciate it. And again,
Don,
all of our listeners,
thank you so much.
Couldn't do without you.
It's so nice to hear from other open-minded people. So it's been a privilege for us. Thank you.
Well, thank you, ladies. Well, have a wonderful day, and we will look forward to seeing you in April.
Okay. Right. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.